Welcome, Adam. Thank you for joining us. A couple of months into your new role as interim chief executive, how are you finding it?
Yeah, great. Really enjoying it. As you can imagine, quite a role to take on at this time, and I'm sure we're going to pick up on a few of those issues through the Q&A over the next little bit of time. But yeah, thanks. Really enjoying it.
Thanks. Now, I know you've worked with NHS Grampian for something like 30 years, so you're a well-kent face to many, and you've even stood in for Caroline on one of these sessions before. But for people who don't know you, Adam, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I started in NHS Grampian not just under 30 years ago, and I've worked in lots and lots of bits of the system. I started as in the clinical audit team, actually originally doing some specialist sort of stats advice, and then I worked in R&D, and then I've worked in both the acute sector in various roles there, and also in the community, starting as planning and then moving into sort of much more general management roles as I went through, and then was in Aberdeenshire's Health and Social Care Partnership from the inception back in 2012. I went just before the start of the Health and Social Care Partnerships, and then I moved back to the Health Board as the Deputy Chief Executive and the Director of Strategy in 2019. So that's a very potted history, but I've been around for a while, met lots of people, lots of change, and lots of people I haven't met yet, and I look forward to meeting more people over the coming time.
Yeah. So I promise we'll get to the submitted questions straight after this, but I think it's important to people that we take a few minutes to hear from you first, exactly what your priorities are in your role as interim chief executive and what people can expect.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. So I think probably just a few things to pick out, and obviously there's lots more to this, but just in the interests of giving a feel for that, I think there's something really key about our system and the pressures that we're facing at the moment. So everyone, whatever bit of the system they work in, is undoubtedly feeling under huge pressure. And I think that's true both in our system and in all the systems across the countries I speak to my colleagues elsewhere. So there's something really key about how do we work together in that or in the situation we're in, and try and avoid the frustration that's very natural in these bits, and ensure that as a chief executive team we're concentrating on the right things, and then in turn ensuring that we're supporting teams to absolutely concentrate on the right things themselves as we do that. So if we think about that in real terms, we've got challenges with waiting times, whether they be for planned care or the challenge we've got with unscheduled care and the flow of people through our system, right through to making sure we remember our plan for the future and how do we move into a prevention agenda in a way that helps to change that paradigm that we're in. So lots of complexity there, and that's at the moment made particularly challenging by the financial position that we're in at present, again, which I hope everyone's familiar with. And the really important bit is that we don't concentrate on either finance on its own or staff governance or clinical governance on their own, but we find this balanced model between staff governance, financial governance and clinical governance, and we remember that whole thing about prevention. So I'm trying to really keen that we promote and all concentrate on that sense of balance between those things. And I think the final bit for this organizational approach is how do we create a mechanism for everyone, all of you, everyone watching this, to have some real skin in the game. So how does individual teams really plan and work on how they spend that resource that they have? How do they then in turn make sure they've got clinical governance, staff governance and financial governance in place while having a mind to prevention? So I've asked, for those that don't know, I've asked Stephen, who's very kindly said yes, to co-chair a group with Mark Burrell, who is the chair of the Area Clinical Forum, alongside Susan Webb, our Director of Public Health. So the three of them are going to co-chair this group to think about how we do that. So that's kind of the organisational approach that I'm after. And then the other bit I was really keen to just mention, Stephen, if that's okay, is just that idea about staff welfare. So I'm really conscious from previous ones of these that Caroline did, that lots of, I guess, what you might call sort of getting the basics right is really, really important to people. And, you know, we've still not sorted some of the temperatures in the buildings, the breaks, the access to cold water, you know, all these things, and car parking. I think there's a question on car parking that we're going to look at today. So, you know, how do we get those right? And again, I'm committed to doing that. I think that's really, really important, because they're the things that for all of us as staff, all of us as people that work here, really important we get those bits right, and then we can really concentrate on the things that make a real difference to patients, to people in our care, and the things that allow us as staff and members of our teams to really you know, make the maximum of our professional contributions that we can do. So I think those are probably the key things, and then maybe just the final bit to speak about is in the context of that balanced bit of balancing staff governance, clinical governance, financial governance and prevention. We're going to have some really difficult things to do together. So we're undoubtedly going to have to make difficult decisions. And the key bit for me is that the group I was referring to earlier that you're chairing, Stephen, with Mark and Susan, enables teams to develop those difficult things for us to think about as a system. What I want to avoid is, you know, me sitting in some darkened room somewhere coming up with, you know, strange ideas about difficult things we chop and axe and all that. So, you know, that's not the way to do business. So I you know, I've a real plea to everyone watching this video to think about what are the things that they're expert in, that they know more about than anyone else, to say how could they design their bit of the system, and within that there may well be difficult decisions, and I'm very happy as an organization that we make those difficult decisions, but I'm really keen that they come from the teams that are expert and know what they're doing. And then very much finally is just a bit of thought about how do we all have hope, and that sense of hope for the future. I think we can't, you know, battle through these really tough times, and they are really, really difficult, whether it's, as we see it, as service and day-to-day pressure, whether it's the financial pressure, any of these things. So we need hope. And I think that's a key part of my job and all of us as leaders in the system, and we all have a leadership role in the system, to think about the future and to think about hope. Now, I believe that the plan for the future, this thing I've got here as my logo behind me, absolutely gives us a mechanism to think about a different future, and therefore to generate hope. And I mean realistic hope. I don't mean, you know, delusional stuff or anything like that. I mean really robust, sensible hope that we can all get after. So let's keep remembering all the really good stuff that's happening day to day alongside all these challenges. We support and treat and care for huge numbers of people really successfully every single day. We do a lot of really fantastic work. So keep that at the center of what we do. Keep the hope alive for where we can get to. And I think if we all work together on that, then actually we can make a real difference to all the people we work together with as colleagues, and all the people that we work to support within our communities. So hopefully that's just gives a wee flavour of what I'm interested in. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. I hope colleagues have found that useful. But you know, given that you just that you're still comparatively new into the role, we did think it was important that you were able to sort of describe your priorities and things as we go forward. So on to the submitted questions then. So first question we've got here is from a Dr. Alan Cartwright, so it's Alan asks, will we ever see the return of the shuttle buses between NHS Grampian sites? Alan's understanding is that these were stopped during COVID, but now the pandemic has passed. Will these ever be making a return? A shuttle bus scheme would help staff in moving between sites in a more efficient way. It'll encourage staff to not use a personal vehicle to get between sites, and which may help to alleviate parking concerns and improve environmental impact. Why are we still waiting on the shuttle buses returning? Why are staff being left to the whims of Aberdeen's tedious public transport system, or the hassle and expense of using their own vehicles to get between sites?
Yeah, thanks very much to Dr. Cartwright. That's a really helpful question to get that topic back out for everyone to know about. So at the moment, the shuttle bus team are working really hard with renal dialysis patients and supporting them to attend appointments. And we do also have some ad hoc shuttle bus services, and these can be accessed via the two-way radio at the main entrance in either ARI, Woodend, Cornhill, the Health Village, or indeed Burnside House. So that's there as a sort of a temporary measure. Obviously, it's not the same as a routine scheduled bus, but that might be worth exploring if you're one of the people that needs to move regularly between sites. I guess in answer to the question in the longer term, then we've got this car parking short life working group that, again, I'm sure you're familiar with, and there's a review team associated with that, and they're currently working on a number of solutions for car parking at Forester Hill, and part of the thinking does relate to the shuttle bus. So it's a kind of watch this space. We don't quite have an answer yet, but that will come. And of course, you'll all be familiar. We've agreed as an organisation alongside the Grampian Area Partnership Forum that there's no changes definitely till April, and we're not going to surprise anyone or drop any surprise or anything like that on anyone. We've got the group working carefully through. We're working in partnership, and please watch this space, and we'll see how we progress both the car parking and associated to that the shuttle bus to work between sites.
The next question is from an anonymous member of nursing staff in the surgical team. And they ask, why are we surging up our acute hospital beds with patients being nursed in corridors when community hospitals have not gone back up to the pre-COVID levels of beds? And why haven't we opened back up our minor injuries units when our A&E departments are so overrun?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And I'll just speak a little bit about, I guess, the unscheduled care context for everyone first, and then try and answer those specific questions about non-standard bed spacing and also the minor injuries unit. So I suspect, without exception, everyone will be very familiar with how incredibly busy our unscheduled care pathways are. And we often see that because of what we measure and things, but most notably in the hospital sector, either at Dr. Gray's or at Aberdeen Royal Infirmary. But please hear me, I know the whole pathway is very, very busy. In terms of Aberdeen Royal Infirmary, if I just use that as an example to understand, we know that the hospital is very full lots of the time, and we're very aware through the bed-based review that really we need a bigger footprint for our hospital provision, and that's even if we do lots of good changes in pathways and across the community. So in the absence of the hospital footprint being bigger, and we're doing some work on that, as again everyone will be familiar, we are using non-standard bed spaces. Now, these aren't all in corridors. Some are in admission rooms and other areas, not physically in the corridor, although there are some absolutely in the corridor. All of that's not what any of us want at all. And so the work that we're doing to try and manage that relates to the overall bed-based review. Maybe we'll come on to that in a minute. It also relates to work that we can directly manage, like length of stay, and also to this flow, both as people come into the hospital and also how people leave the hospital at the end of the stay that they require for their condition and their illness. So in terms of the first bit, we're doing some really successful stuff with things like the Flow Navigation Centre, the redirecting of patients, working with Scottish Ambulance Service, working with NHS 24. So we're doing that work. And then in terms of the people that actually come to Aberdeen Royal Infirmary, most of that has changed from pre-COVID to being people of much higher acuity and severity of illness. So a minor injury unit in the community doesn't really deal with the same patient cohort that we're doing. But in the second part of that question was about the bed base within the community hospitals, and really very much like both Dr. Gray's and Aberdeen Royal Infirmary, through the pandemic related to physical spacing conditions and things like that, that the bed number has declined. And also relating exactly the same as Dr. Gray's and Aberdeen Royal Infirmary, actually the availability of staff to staff the bed safely is also reduced. So everyone is, I think the bit I'm keen to really emphasize is everyone's working really hard at playing their part in a system, and every bit of the system has various constraints. So, you know, I do lots of work with Aberdeenshire and with Murray and with Aberdeen City about how do they contribute to the flow of patients in an unscheduled care pathway, both at the start and how they support people to come out of hospital. So I think if the question was prompting a sense that other people weren't playing their part, I would like to emphasize I believe they are, and we will continue to work with all of the teams both in the hospital and out of the hospital to see how we maximize these pathways of care for patients.
Adam, you mentioned the bed-based review as part of your last answer there, and there is a related question which I think we'll bring up just now. So an anonymous nursing colleague who works in one of the new areas which were opened as a result of the bed-based review says nursing staff had hope when the bed-based review project successfully opened 32 new beds in Aberdeen Royal Infirmary this winter. The first of 120 beds being added to our system, I believe. It appears the project does not feature in our financial plan for the next financial year. Can you clarify if subsequent phases of the project to add in more beds to the system will be supported by the Chief Exec team with the requisite funding? I appreciate the dire financial position, but so many of our problems with patient care, staff well-being, and our overall system performance can be improved hugely with these extra beds. Surely we cannot afford not to carry on with the project, even if it is at the expense of other work.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for the question, whoever sent that in. So I am very, very keen on us working out how we do pursue more beds related to the bed-based review. Now, as I speak now, I don't know how we fund that. That's definitely a challenge, and we don't know immediately how we would find the physical bed spaces for that. So there's two bits of challenge there. As again, I hope everyone knows, we're looking to find £77 million of savings, £77 million, an eye-watering sum of money this year. So it does at the moment just feel very challenging to think how we make ongoing investment in things like that. So again, the 32 beds has a cost in excess of £5 million so far. So you'll get a sense of the sort of scale against the savings. I agree with whoever sent the question in. It's really clear to me that the bed capacity does relate to lots of our performance things, both in unscheduled and in planned. Because not the answer to everything, but it's absolutely a contributing factor. So, you know, my plan is to work away with the Chief Exec team through the year to think how do we, you know, square that circle, because they are definitely in tension, aren't they, between the resource, how we recruit people, how we have physical space to do the beds, but absolutely understanding they're going to be pretty fundamental to us seeing the improvements in performance that we're after. So it's a bit of a, I haven't got an immediate answer because I don't. So again, as I think I said at the start, I want to be completely honest and straightforward. I don't have the answer to that, but I absolutely share the sentiment of the question that this is a really, really important thing for us to keep working away at and see how do we possibly make progress on that against all of those challenges that we've got around it.
Okay, thanks, Adam. Okay, so we've got a different topic now, and this is from an anonymous member of nursing staff who says, it has been suggested that senior NHS Grampian management have directed an intentional cultural shift away from dealing with alleged serious conduct matters under the misconduct hearing process to being more understanding of deficiencies. And the question is, can Adam advise if this is correct, and where do we draw the line in such matters? Are integrity issues in healthcare staff now to be deemed as just a minor deficiency?
Yeah, that's a really good topic to try and just discuss, and I'll do my best to provide this sentiment of what I'm after. So we are absolutely trying to pursue cases slightly differently. We have an option for informal resolution for some things, not for everything, but for some things. And we are absolutely trying to pursue informal resolution as, on many occasions, the best way to make progress, because that allows people within teams working together to have a productive future if we resolve that properly in an informal situation, and more quickly, and on the whole more satisfactorily. So yes, I am absolutely encouraging that as an approach. The bit, if I heard the question just right, and I think I did, that we're not questioning the integrity issues, and that's less important or a minor deficiency. Absolutely not for 1 second. So the integrity of our process, the integrity that I expect of all colleagues, it is not changed at all. It's just potentially a different approach initially. Now, of course, if we need to pursue formal investigation, then disciplinary matters, we will absolutely do that, and we will ensure that we absolutely use policy appropriately to follow disciplinary procedures as we need to. So I guess, trying to summarize that, yes, we're trying to slightly change the approach where it's appropriate. Please hear that, where it's appropriate. But we're absolutely not dumbing down our system. We're not doing anything to a lower standard. We're not doing anything to not absolutely call people out when they're behaving in a way that we don't expect them to behave. So, and whoever sent the question, if indeed there's something that you feel has been not done appropriately or needs further attention, please do get in touch with your local HR rep, or indeed, if you're not quite sure who that is, then go to Philip Shipman, who's our lead in that whole area, and Philip will make sure you get then in touch with the right member of his team to do it. So thanks for the question. Absolutely not dumbing anything down, but maybe trying a slightly different approach for some of the time. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. Yes, I guess for colleagues that know me well, of course, Adam, you and I co-chair Grampian Dairy Partnership Forum, so of course within our bailiwick, it's policies, so sort of policy processes and standards of conduct, and but also how we deal with alleged breaches of those is absolutely that. So hopefully, I think the question, probably had several different elements, so hopefully your answer, so it deals with it. And of course, as you said, if there are any specific concerns, then by all means, sort of contact HR, I guess, would be good advice. So.
And Stephen,
right.
just to I guess check that for everyone that's listening, that sense of informal resolution absolutely gets partnership and, on the whole, trade union support, as well as a productive way for us to approach, for the appropriate things to approach those sorts of challenges.
Absolutely. You in and around any circumstance, where, and particularly when you end up, considering using sort of formal policies or whatever, there are always different perspectives. So but I suppose the phrase, these days would be it's about being person-centred. So it's about looking at the individual and what supports or what what steps can be taken, and if that can be done, as you say, informally or through a method of early resolution, then then actually it's hopefully a win-win. But I mean, in terms of the standards, the standards of behaviour that we would expect, or particularly for those who are regulated, that the regulators expect. I'm like you. I'm not aware of any lowering of those standards. So,
good.
Okay. So the next topic is relates to the diagnosis delays for neurodivergent people in Grampian. So some of the questions came from an anonymous charge nurse, and another came from an anonymous medical secretary. So some of the questions are quite specific, so we've asked the service for a full response, which we'll pass on to the colleagues who asked. But Adam, I wonder if you could address what is being done to improve diagnosis speed for autism and ADHD. The colleagues have raised the impact that this is having upon our own staff waiting diagnosis, and have also mentioned that many people are being forced to seek private appointments due to the length of the delays. One of the colleagues mentions that she's been waiting for 2 years, for herself.
Yeah, thank you. So I've got a couple of thoughts on this to share with everyone. So the first one is, quite simply an acknowledgement of the waiting times for the diagnosis for particularly ADHD, autism, as two examples of the neurodivergent issues experienced by lots of people and people indeed within our colleagues and within our organisation. I understand the team are working very hard on that, but the waiting time isn't suddenly going to be fixed like lots of waiting times, and we all work in a system, are very familiar with this. So really just an apology that it is so long and there isn't a concrete plan yet to make that back to something much shorter, but we can keep everyone up to speed with that over the coming months as we get more information on that and more understanding of what the service might be able to do. So that's the first bit, is acknowledgement of how frustrating that is. The second bit is really to make sure that everyone is aware of our own network for our staff members who have neurodivergent issues or want to know more about it. So we had a session as part of our Equalities Network. So the Equalities Network meets every month, and we had a special session on neurodivergent issues. And really excitingly, from that session, a cohort of colleagues have come together and have formed a group that meets every month to explore those issues and see, I guess, how we can support each other, how we can work as an organisation within that space. And that has different members from occupational health, learning disabilities, some people with diagnosis, some people awaiting diagnosis. So, and indeed even colleagues who are supporting their own family members and things with neurodivergent issues. So find out about that. We can perhaps put a link. Mike, who pulls this video together for us, Mike can maybe put a link in so that people know how to contact that cohort, that group of people and that network to get all the practical stuff as well as a real, hopefully, colleague sort of strength from that. I know that being within a network can often be extremely valuable.
So the next topic, and I've not got a name, Adam, so I'm assuming this is from another anonymous colleague. So long-standing temporary contracts. Why, according to the NHS fixed term contracts policy, if an individual has permanency of employment within NHS Grampian beyond 4 years of service, then why are there NHS staff members who have been doing the same job for well over 4 years and are still on temporary contracts. Isn't this a breach of the policy? This has had an impact on staff when wanting to take up certain NHS schemes, such as the salary sacrifice schemes for cycling to work, etc.
I think there's a really simple answer. Absolutely, that sounds like a mistake more than anything. So that responsibility should sit with your line manager, and maybe the line managers have changed a couple of times, so that the continuity has just not quite happened. So apologies if that's happened to you as an individual who's listening to this. Please get in touch with HR colleague. If you don't know who it is, again, contact Philip Shipman and he will direct you to the right member of his team to help you. We should be able to resolve that really very quickly, and then absolutely be great for you to be able to take advantage of things related to salary sacrifice, whether that's nursery vouchers, bike to work scheme, and some of the many things we're hoping to introduce as these benefits to colleagues within the organisation. So sorry if that's happened to you. Get in touch and we should be able to resolve it very quickly.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. Another anonymous one. So this colleague writes, can I ask Adam why there has been no financial or managerial support to the discharge hub, yet our delayed discharges are causing so many problems?
Yeah, I'm interested by that. I think we have made some changes to the discharge hub. I think just in the last few months we've had a new manager put in place to have immediate oversight of the discharge hub. So maybe there's a timing gap here or something. I'll go and see the discharge hub folks on one of my visits in the near future and see if I'm missing something. But I think we have made some changes. If the question wasn't from someone in the discharge hub, then maybe ping us in another question for next month and we can try and pick it up. But I'll go and see them and see what maybe that's about. I would agree with the delayed discharge, but that's definitely a challenge at the moment. Again, something we're working with Aberdeenshire in particular at the moment seem to be struggling a bit more. Aberdeen City seem to have had some really great changes in the delayed discharge profile over a reasonably long period of time now, and I know the context in Aberdeenshire is very different and certainly causing a challenge around some of the tools they've got in the bag to be able to do it. So again, it's something that we're working on together, something everyone's working on hard to try and make as good as we possibly can. Discharge hub, really important bit of our team, and I'll pop in and see them and see if we can understand if I'm missing something from the question.
Thank you, Adam. Right, change of topic now. Well, back to what you mentioned earlier in terms of your opening remarks about finding balance. So an anonymous manager in the acute sector asks, Adam, NHS Grampian are clearly in a more dire financial position than has been experienced before. The finance drop-in sessions and update video from yourself are genuinely appreciated. However, there are many who feel staff's appreciation of the situation has been diluted by the communications focusing on finding balance between finance, people, clinical and prevention. Would it not be more transparent to have a more stark message of us having to consider our service delivery levels to try and balance the books?
Yeah, well, that's a really great question, and I really appreciate it because it perhaps gives me an opportunity to just try and explain what I'm trying to do and why I'm trying to do it. And there's definitely some risk in what I'm going to say because I'm going to be, just sharing what I worry away at and the tensions I have. So, so the financial position, it is really difficult. So the essence of the question about it being really stark, I would agree. I think it's incredibly large sum of money that we're trying to save. However, I'm also really conscious that in a big organisation with, we've got about 17,000 people work for us, that messages can be very clumsy if they're very stark, and they then don't really enable people to work in the way that we need them to. And I guess that's in the essence of the question, the other way around, isn't it? That if it's not clear enough, people don't then realise what they need to do. Really interesting if we've not quite landed the message bluntly enough. I do maintain that we need to work to achieve that balance between staff governance, clinical governance, financial governance, with some thinking and real balance to prevention. And the reason I'm saying that is that, you know, I'm in this for the long haul. I'm sure everyone watching the videos in this for the long haul. And if we're really clumsy in our financial delivery, then we know that has, again, not to be dramatic, but it has catastrophic impacts over a much longer period of time. So what I'm really keen to achieve is that I'm at danger of repeating myself from earlier, but I'm going to, the group that Stephen, Mark and Susan are co-chairing is going to find a way for every team to have real skin in the game, to figure out what they can deliver for the envelope of money that they've got. And that's quite difficult. I think that does have a start message, that does have a sense of what we need to do differently, hopefully through change and redesign, to still have, you know, what we all want to do and be proud of whilst changing the financial dynamic. But that's all really complex. So, you know, I'm trying to find the right message that gets people enthused, buying into what we're doing, so that we're in it together for the long haul, rather than you know, just kind of randomly stopping things that probably won't have an impact, and we'll probably have to restart again, and when you restart it, it has more cost than it had originally and things. So if it needs to be starker, give me a ring. Let's work on how we make the message clearer if it's not clear enough. But I genuinely believe in what we need to do is find that balance between those things. So hopefully that explains some of my thinking and I guess what I'm feeling and what I'm trying to transmit as a feeling to people. A complex thing in a big organization, when I guess our messages, you know, get filtered and changed as they go through a big organization, as indeed this one probably will, as we go forward. But hopefully that's a reasonable stab at what you were after as a question. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks Adam. And
Stephen, just perhaps one more thing, if I could. Sorry to come back. I just had a thought. One of the things I've been saying quite a lot is that we need to save you know, £210,000 a day every single day for 365 days of the year, which again is, you know, an incredible sum of money, isn't it? £210,000 every single day. And I think the really key part of that message is that, you know, if we miss 5 days of not making those savings, that's another £1 million we've got to save in the remaining 360 days, isn't it? So maybe that's the sort of message that can really help people understand the gravity of it, without, you know, shocking or scaring or getting people paralyzed with not knowing what to do. You know, let's get that balance working together. Let's get every team thinking what do they need to do to make the savings, so that as we come together as a big organization, we create or continue to build a system we're proud of, that has good performance but lives within its financial envelope. Thanks, and sorry for that add-on. Thanks, Stephen.
No, that's fine, Adam. Thank you, Adam. The next question, and yeah, in fact, all the remaining questions are from anonymous colleagues. So hopefully, with time, you know, colleagues will be encouraged, or, you know, feel comfortable enough that they can share their names. But the next question is: will the Aroma Café at the emergency department entrance be open for 24 hours? Patients have no way of accessing food and drink if they're waiting to be seen in the emergency department if the vending machine is broken, which seems to happen regularly. They also have no access to meals, as the hot food vending machines are for staff only, as there is no way for them to heat the food.
Yeah, thanks. And I recognise the basis of the question, and it's not ideal at all. However, you know, we don't have plans to open the Aroma Café next to ED 24/7. The reason being, all of our cafes are I don't know what's the word, self-sustaining financially, so they have to pay for themselves. And if we opened it 24/7, there would be a subsidy from NHS Grampian, which at the moment we don't have the scope to do that, or the desire to subsidise those cafes out, beyond their financial envelope, which again is why the facilities team that oversee them have worked really carefully over the years to just find that sweet spot of opening the right amount of time to be convenient and good, but also to make sure that financially they wash their face, as it were. So no, absolutely no intention at the moment to do that. Maybe if we can understand more about that over time, we can see if there might be other solutions going forward. I mean, a tiny thing just at the edges, we are changing vending machine supplier, so maybe there'll be a slightly better offering in that going forward. But let's keep an eye on that and see what might be possible if and it won't be opening the Aroma, I'm pretty sure of that, but maybe there'll be something else we can come forward with. But that's something we'll just have to keep an eye on at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Next question is from an anonymous porter. Is it possible for next year's vaccination programme that members of staff's family also have the option of getting the same vaccinations as the staff member? It appears unfair that if, as a member of staff, we pick up COVID or flu, we are protected, but our household members are not.
Yeah, I absolutely love the sentiment to this, actually, and it sounds like that would be a really decent thing to do. However, the eligibility for all of the vaccination groups are actually just determined nationally and given to us. So there's a group called JCVI that tell us what to do. We'll need to wait and see what their advice is next year. It may change, it may not. Certainly, Susan Webb, our Director of Public Health, will feed this suggestion into that group through her network, and maybe they'll respond to it, maybe they won't. If relatives of staff groups to fit into the eligible criteria, obviously they can't come through our staff bit for vaccination. They'll need to go separately. But one of the reasons I really love this question is we do struggle to get the vaccination rates to the high levels that we want them, don't we, amongst our staff? And so we've clearly got this interest where someone's thinking in this real good protection bit, and maybe some of that will land well through that question with others to realise the benefits of vaccination and the opportunity staff members have.
Yeah, thank you. Next one is around the NHS Grampian's Rota system and the policies that are related. So how can the new Rota system have staff going between night shift and day shift, or vice versa, with not enough rest time off in between those shifts? That is also stated in the NHS Grampian policies, and it appears to be a long-standing issue. Can it please be cleared up? What is unacceptable and required by our policies regarding both issues, and what we can do when it is not being followed on many occasions?
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, I'm sorry to hear that that's happening and someone's experiencing that. I think we've got really clear guidance on that as part of the working time regulations. Stephen, you might know if it's in an exact policy and clear. I'm pretty sure it is, but I'll perhaps ask you in a second. Part of the question said, what do you do about it? So if the area you're working in isn't following the policy and the working time regulation, check your line manager knows that. If your line manager knows that isn't resolving it, perhaps check with their boss that if that can happen. And clearly, if that's still not starting to get recognition and change, then you've got options around going to HR, going to your partnership rep, your trade union rep, and hopefully between these different dynamics that we have in our system, someone will support you to make that change, because we're clear you should have the right scheduling of your work so that you're recovered and fit and able to do it, and still existing in between in a really positive way, not struggling with that lack of rest and recovery. Stephen, do you know about that's clearly set out in one of our policies, I guess?
I think that's related to the rostering policy. I think that's absolutely you're part of the rostering policy. Is because my sense of the question, it's about that change. So if you are a shift worker and you go through changes, it's the minimum amount of time. So yeah, I mean the working time regulations are the law. So yeah, it's something that as you've said, the colleagues should be encouraged to sort of raise that and prevent that happening either for them or
Absolutely.
people they work with.
Absolutely. Okay, yeah, and whoever sent the question in, if you're still stuck in a reasonable period of time, when you've had a chance to explore that with your line manager, their boss, the partnership rep, whatever, do email me and Stephen together if it's stuck, and we will try and make sure the right person picks it up to go forward. So don't stay stranded and frustrated that it's not more than frustrated and not working properly. Do let us know.
Okay, thank you. Next one is from Jenny Barnes, who's a staff nurse at the Children's Hospital Theatres. Jenny asks, when the Royal Aberdeen Children's Hospital staff currently come on duty at 1 p.m, they are on shift till 8 p.m, then on call until 8 a.m. Often it's difficult to find parking and near impossible if we've been up during the night and coming in, during the 11.5 hours. Overnight after leaving the department. The small area at the bottom of Shale, which is used for pool cars or vans, often has spaces. Why can't something be arranged so that we could park there? We're expected to provide an out-of-hours service for the Children's Hospital Theatres by being on call 24/7 and return to work the following day, if up to 11.5 hours after we've left. Could someone at least come and speak to us about this if it can't be answered here? So I think it's a specific question about that group of staff, but well, it's related to car parking. So
yeah, okay, so let's get someone to come and speak to you as the question suggests. I'll ask Ted Reed to come and speak to you as a team, see what's possible. I guess the bit I feel I have to say out loud to everyone is there's probably multiple examples of this sort of thing. So it'll probably be important that, Ted comes to speak to you and we give other teams an opportunity to say, oh, actually, we're in exactly the same position for another reason. And then we can come up with an answer. I mean, as in a genuine solution, not just an answer, a genuine solution through the short life working group who are looking at car parking. I mentioned them earlier on, if you heard the earlier answer. So the short life working group can then look in the round to make sure we get solutions for everyone that's struggling, like your example. And the reason I say that is it's important, it's fair for everyone, isn't it, that we resolve these bits. But again, as I said at the very start, car parking is one of the real frustrators, and I'm really determined that we get car parking as good as we possibly can, so that it's not this ever continuing frustrating, challenging, difficult thing that it is for people. And I know it's a long-standing issue. I chaired the first ever car parking group about 20 something years ago, and it's changed lots of times, but it's still a real challenge, isn't it? So we'll get Ted down to see you, and then we can take it from there. But for everyone else that might have a similar thing, let Ted know, and then we can get that in the short life working group to get as fair and as an equitable solution for lots of teams as we possibly can. Thank you.
Okay, well done. Thank you for your time, Adam. That's us got to the end of the questions that I had so far. And for anyone that's got sort of specific, or if there are specific questions that you will get direct responses as well. As always, feedback is welcome on these question and answer sessions. I gather, if memory serves me correctly, when the advert went out in the Daily Brief that we were going to be doing one of these again, or reintroducing them, that there was a call for questions, and I think colleagues were given a couple of days, and in those 40 hours, I think there was 30 questions submitted. So it gives us, it gives an indication that colleagues are quite keen to be able to ask the person at the top sort of questions across a whole range of issues. So if there's anything you would like to see more or less of, I guess within reason, please let us know. So thanks, Adam. Have a good day.
Thanks, Stephen. Cheers. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.